rested a hand on the woman's shoulder. She moved sideways, as if to shrug him off, but he held on tight. Her hand went up in what seemed to be an attempt to prise off his fingers, but all the time she was smiling. Isabel could see that. Strange, she thought, an argument conducted in the language of smiles. But more intriguing still, an expensive car, one of those discreet cars of uncertain make but with unambiguous presence, had drawn up on the cafe side of the street, just below the level of Isabel's window. It had stopped, and a man and a woman had emerged. They were in a no-parking zone, and Isabel watched as the man pressed the device on his keyring that would lock the doors automatically. "You're allowed to drop things off," thought Isabel, "but not park. Don't you know that?" And then she thought, people who drive cars like that consider themselves above the regulations, the rules that prevent those with humbler cars and shallower pockets from parking. And these people, of course, can afford the parking fines. Small change for them. She found herself feeling irritated, and her irritation became, after a few moments, animosity. She found herself disliking them, this man and woman standing beside their expensive car, because of their arrogance. She looked down into her coffee cup, and then up again. "No," she thought, "this is wrong. You should not dislike people you do not know." And she knew nothing about them, other than that they appeared to imagine that their wealth entitled them to ignore the regulations by which the rest of us had to abide. But then they might not know that one could not park there because they were from somewhere else, from a place where a double yellow line might be an invitation to park for all she knew. And even as she thought this, she realized that, of course, they were not from Edinburgh. Their clothes were different, and their complexions too. These people had been in the sun somewhere, and their clothes had that cut, that freshly dry-cleaned look that Scottish clothes never seem to have. Scottish clothes were soft, a bit crumpled, lived in, like Scottish people themselves, really. She craned her neck. The two of them, the man, considerably older than the woman, were walking down the road away from the car. They paused as the man pointed at a door, and the woman said something to him. Isabel saw her adjust the printed silk scarf around her neck and glance at the watch on her wrist, a small circle of gold that caught the sun as she moved her arm. The man nodded, and they climbed the steps that led into the Scottish gallery. Isabel sat back in her seat. It wasn't remarkable in any way. A wealthy couple from somewhere else driving into town, leaving their car where they should not, but out of ignorance rather than arrogance, and then going into one of the galleries. There was nothing particularly interesting about all that, except for one thing. Isabel had seen the man's face, which was drawn up on one side from Bell's palsy, producing the condition's characteristic grimace. And the woman's face had been, by contrast, a beautiful one, if one's standards of beauty are the regular features of the Renaissance Madonna, soft, composed, feminine. "They are none of my business," she thought, and yet she had nothing to do until 12 o'clock. It was then 10:30 in the morning, and she had been half thinking of going into the Scottish Gallery anyway. She knew the staff there, and they usually showed her something interesting by the Scottish artists she liked. A Peploe sketch, a Philipson nude, something by William Crosby, if she was in luck. If she went in now, she would see the couple at closer quarters and reach a more considered view. She had been wrong to dislike them, and she owed it to them now to find out a little bit more about them. So it was not pure curiosity, even if it looked like it. This was really an exercise in rectifying a mistaken judgment. The entrance to the Scottish Gallery was a glass door, behind which a short set of open stairs led to the upper gallery, while a slightly longer set led down into a warren of basement exhibition spaces. These lower spaces were not dark, as basements could be, but brightly lit by strategically placed display lights, and brightened too by the splashes of colour on the walls. Isabel went up and past the desk.